Hey everyone, welcome to... I'm your host Connie, and today we are here to react to Season 2, Episode 1 of Invincible. So, if you're wondering right off the bat where Season 1 is, it's not on the channel. I watched Season 1 on my own time back when that first aired. And I know Season 2 is like, what, a year late at this point? Season 3 is coming out like early this year. Either this month or next month or something. There's been a multitude of reasons I haven't gotten to this season yet, whether doing reactions or on my own time. And a lot of it has come down to there's a lot of discourse with people who watch this, and a lot of it admittedly has thrown me off of, or that's the wrong way to put it, has turned me off of a lot of my interest in this. Because there's a lot of like arguing, a lot of fighting, a lot of debating on certain elements of this. And it's just it's completely taken over the, I guess you could say, Invincible fandom. It's one of these fandoms that have become all about the arguments and debating rather than enjoying the show. Rather than talking about the implications of certain actions characters take or events that happen within the series, etc., etc. Because, like, pretty literally everything I ever see in relation to this series is just a bunch of arguing. And it's on a lot of different various topics, one of which obviously is the entire Amber argument. People arguing and fighting over whether or not Amber's even a good character, or if she's likable, or if she was in the right or the wrong for the way she acted. By the way, if you want to know my opinion, she was absolutely in the right. But I'm not going to be going through all of that here and flaming this debate further. I might talk about it during reactions and stuff, but I'm not going to like take 10, 15, 20 minutes just to go over it again here. And it's like, I have no problem with people having strong opinions about a show, because you should. Whenever you're really into a series, you should have opinions about it. You should have your views and perspectives and whatnot. And if they go against the grain, if they go against what other people think, that's fine. But when the entirety of the fandom is centered around that, and that's all anybody ever talks about, the only thing I ever hear on all of social media about this series, that's pretty sad. I have no idea what happens this season at all. I have not seen a single spoiler, which is good, mind you. But it's because literally no one will talk about anything else with this series. Like, I've even seen some people trying to say that what Nolan, Omni-Man, was doing was right in Season 1. And which completely threw me off, but... It's like, that's all anybody ever wants to do with this. It's one of those shows that is just a breeding ground for people arguing. And it's all anyone cares about with this series at this point. So I'm just telling you now that as we watch through this, I'm going to be sharing my own opinions, yes. But as always, they are just my opinions. You are allowed to think differently than me. I'm not going to be one of those assholes fighting over it. You are allowed to have a different opinion than me. I mean, I don't have to agree with your opinion. I don't have to understand it, but I'm all for you having it. And I'm not going to fight you on that. But anyway, talking about, like, actually what happened last time and all. So the first season mostly centered around Mark getting his powers, learning to use them, and going against foes that, let's be honest, are way too strong for him. Because he's kind of a dumbass and thinks he can take on the world right away. Like, I mean, it all kind of comes to a head at the finale where he, goes head to head with his dad, who is definitely too strong for him. And mind you, he does fail, he does lose. But his persistence does get through enough to Nolan to cause him to leave Earth. He leaves Earth, he actually does show regret and emotion with his tears. And it shows that he's not necessarily evil. Despite his actions, despite his, beliefs and everything, this is something that has been drilled into him since birth. It's just Viltrumite idealism. And it's all he's ever known until Earth. When he came here and started this family, it's like, yeah, he still convinces himself of this kind of ideology. But in reality, he's begun to change, and we actually do get to see that. And I hope that that character development does continue. I hope that he does continue to change and continue to grow. Because that's the kind of shit I love to see. But Mark also needs to continue to grow. And not just with his powers, but he's kind of naive about how things work, about how to be a hero and everything. He has this kind of naive idealism, which is nice and good. But he takes it to a level where it's like, he basically thinks the equivalent of you can solve everything if you're just nice to them. It's basically the equivalent. He's so positive that he doesn't understand that sometimes you're going to have to take things a little far. Like, even when there was that invading army from the other planet, who came into the middle of the city and everything multiple times, like, whenever he was, like, killing things or whatnot, or people were dying around him, he was just, like, so freaked out by it because of his idealism. And it's just like, yeah, they're not going to care about your idealism. They're going to kill you. They're going to kill others around you to fuck you up. They're going to do whatever it takes. And it's not going to be pleasant. If you're going to be a superhero, it's like you're going to face a lot of heavy shit. You're going to face a lot of, like, fucked up deaths. It's going to be part of what it's about. We have other great characters who are featured in Season 1 as well, such as the aforementioned Amber. We have Eve. I wouldn't call him a great character, but we have Rex. Robot. Just all of the Guardians, really. And just so much more. You have to count Debbie and Cecil as well. Even if they're not necessarily great people, great characters don't necessarily have to be. Great characters just reference how well they're, designed, written, etc. I'm just wondering what the aftermath of all of this is going to be, with the last season ending on such a horrific bloodbath at the hands of Nolan. Like, all that shit he did, basically just because he could. It's not even about the original Guardians. Like, you also have to take into account all the people on that train in the buildings, like during the fight with with his son. All these people who are just horrifically dying and stuff. And it's like, this is one of those shows, obviously, that, like The Boys, tries to tackle superheroes in a more realistic world, in a more realistic sense, where it's like, oh yeah, people are dying constantly. Because superheroes and supervillains are going to be causing a lot of collateral damage, whether intentional or not. It's one of those kind of shows where it's really fucked up when you think about it. It's kind of wild to think that the population is still, going because of how insane the death rate is. But these shows usually also tackle stuff like that for a reason. It's trying to make a statement on superhero media and on, like, kind of the people who talk about, like, oh, it would be cool if this really existed. It's like, no, it would not. Not at all. You think it would be cool. It sounds like it could be cool. It would not be cool. And that's kind of what these shows portray. Like, The Boys obviously tackles a lot of the more political aspects of it, while this tackles more the humanity aspects. You know what I mean? Mind you, both shows tackle both of those, but just to a different focus. I wonder what other kind of recurring characters we're going to see in this, from the first season, or what new recurring characters we're going to get. I don't know. Like I said, I know nothing about the season. I know nothing about what's to come because no one talked about it when this was airing. I saw no one on any social media talking about the actual show, but instead just arguing over shit like Amber and Nolan and whatnot. And again, mind you, for reacting to this, that's a good thing, because it means I go in completely blind, which is what I prefer. But on the other hand, it's like, it makes me so disappointed in this fandom. And one last thing before we, excuse me, before we continue, this is a donation reward. This series was chosen as a donation reward. It was randomized on the wheel, I believe. I believe that's how we chose it before the holiday break. But I don't know who this donation reward is for, because this is one that was donated for anonymously. There's been an influx of those over the years, I guess you could say, over time. But there's been a couple, like, notably lately, I guess you could say, that were donated for anonymously, both in terms of movies and shows. And no one was originally coming up to own up to that, like, because they were donated for anonymously on the PayPal, but no one was coming in the comments and everything. They did say in a most recent donation that they donated for, though, that they wish to remain anonymous, that they don't want their name or handle or anything like that out there. So they have like come forward about it in a way, and they said I could, like, mention that. But yeah, they mentioned that I could just tell people for future videos that they wish to remain anonymous. So I'm just going to refer to them as the anonymous donator. They've donated for a few movies, a few shows here and there, whatever. And and they might in the future again. So, if and when they do, this is what I will refer to them as, the anonymous donator. So yeah, they donated for this because, like I said, I wasn't planning on reacting to this. I don't even know when or if I would have gotten around to watching it on my own time at this point. Um, it's just one of those cases where it's, again, because of the fandom, I kind of lost a lot of interest. And I just, I wanted to focus on other things. But thanks to this, I'm able to continue it. So, season 2 of Invincible. We'll see how this goes. The reason I reacted to the first season on my own time, by the way, before we begin this, is because I wasn't sure if this was something I would even want to react to specifically. So I just decided I'll just watch this on my own time. And again, I wasn't even really considering reacting to season 2. So we'll see how it goes for a reaction series. I don't know how that's gonna go for me. We'll see. We'll see. But let us get this started and I guess find out. Hold up just a second there. Before you click that link down in the description below to go to today's reaction, I just wanted to take this moment real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions, with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And don't forget about all the awesome gaming content over on the Princess of Gaming channel. Every single day of the week, we have some awesome Let's Plays for you. A bunch of different things to check out, and more coming in the future. And don't forget to click that subscribe button or like the video if you really enjoy the content I'm putting out. There will be more to come in the future. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in, and let's get this going. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this is interesting. Because they're already setting up, and have already basically shown and set up for Angstrom Levy to be an extremely tragic villain. Not like other villains in various media and whatnot who are just, bad guys because they want power, or they want control, or yada, yada, yada. Angstrom genuinely wanted to protect and save people. His goal here was pure, was absolutely good. Going about it by, contracting the Mahler twins, multiple sets of them from all over the multiverse, kind of questionable. But his goal was absolutely good. However, in an attempt to stop the Maulers from killing Invincible, because, he didn't want anyone to be killed, he was a pacifist, it fucked over his mind. The mental transfers and everything were already starting, and so his mind got completely fucked over. While all of the other multiversal versions of himself died, he survived with a scrambled version of all of their memories. He's unable to discern and differentiate between them. And because of that, he's kind of been driven insane. He's now blaming Invincible for everything happening because all of his memories are showing from all of these other dimensions that Invincible is the problem. Like, this was already stated, that in most other dimensions, he sided with his father. And so, Angstrom is getting all of that all of that, like, hate, all of that resentment from all these other angstroms, and it's clouding his judgment. He's filled with rage and pain and sorrow, and it's driving him insane, literally. And despite having been a pacifist, despite having been, a genuinely good person who wanted to help the multiverse, he at the end here states that his new goal is not to help people anymore, but to kill Invincible. His insanity has driven him into being a villain. And that's a really fascinating character arc to go to. And I'm kind of wondering if by the end, like, he's probably going to end up dying. But I wonder if he's going to end up seeing, like, the error of his ways, or if his mind's going to be fixed or something right before his death. And he's going to realize what he's done and how it went against everything he stood for. That's kind of, like, the vibes I'm getting from this. And whether it goes exactly that route or not, I think this could be, like, honestly, a much more interesting, much more fascinating villain than Nolan ever was, if I'm being completely honest. Nolan, as kind of the overarching villain of season 1, was just kind of okay. Like, he's a very specific trope that you've seen in a lot of media, where it's like the evil Superman type. And obviously there's a lot of differences, but you've seen this in various media where it's like the similarities are unquestionable. I mean, even Brightburn was like a play on this trope. And again, I'm not saying that Nolan is only that, but he definitely is that trope. And that's fine. And again, they played with the idea of a lot more depth to him that we haven't yet seen, but they only hinted at that so far. There's still a lot more that we have to see come from it before we can really acknowledge any other development in character with him. And mind you, there's a lot of people who watch this who probably have read the comics and whatnot and know a lot about where the story goes. Keep in mind, I am series only. I have not read the comics. I do not plan on reading the comics. I am animation only in this case. And so I'm not going to have that knowledge. And I don't want to have that knowledge. I want to remain as spoiler-free on this as possible. So I'm going into this without knowing about anything that's going to come. So keep in mind, when I make these statements, they're all coming from the perspective of someone who has not read the comics and doesn't know where this goes. And don't spoil me to anything that might change. So, yeah. We get to see a lot of the trauma and pain and just uncertainty of Mark's character in this, which is exactly where I feel like it should have gone. I feel like doing anything else at this point, or having him just go back into his regular life, would have made no sense. It would have really felt kind of disrespectful, I would almost say, to what we just had at the end of season 1. Things needed to get to this point. He needed to have this, not really breakdown of sorts, but this mental low, this emotional low, because it's going to allow him to rise back up. When something as traumatic as what happened with Chicago and Omni-Man and everything happened, you have to have your main characters suffer from that. As sucky as it sounds, that's just how good storytelling and character work goes. And so to see him struggle with just everyday life, but especially with trying to figure out what to do as a hero from here on out, I mean, it makes sense. Like he said in the episode, like he idolized his father. He looked up to him. He wanted to be just like him. Like, this is gonna fuck him up for a number of reasons. It just makes sense. And we get to see how everyone's kind of there for him, but no one's really knowing how to handle it. The advice they're giving with like telling him to just stay out of it for now is good. It's good advice. But it's like I feel like he needs something more than that. And I'm not saying he needs to be doing this hero work. Honestly, he shouldn't right now. But he needs more than just being told to, stay home and focus on his grades and stuff. And the thing is, like outside of maybe his mom, who's he gonna get what he needs here from? Because he needs someone to like actually understand him, to actually see where he's coming from and be able to help him from a point of just understanding. And we see Deb get a little bit of that with Olga, but Mark doesn't really have someone in that same kind of situation. So, what do we do in that regard? What's going to happen? How is he going to get over this? And get over it's probably the wrong way to put it, but you know what I mean. Now, something I was wondering about while watching this is with all these other worlds where Mark did join his father, what happened to Debbie? Did they kill Debbie? Like, we saw that he wasn't willing to kill Eve in that world, that he paralyzed her because he wasn't willing to kill her. It was something he still could not do. And it showed that even in those worlds where he joins his father, he's still himself and he still has a sense of morality to a point. Though it's also very much implied that he has killed a shit ton of people to learn how to even do that with the paralysis. Um, Also, it's basically just said that they've killed a shit ton of people anyway. And it's just like I said, there's a bit of uh, goodness and of his humanity and heroics still left in him. But it really makes you wonder about like just how far he went in that universe. Um, it's really interesting, really wild that we're going into multiversal stuff. Because usually you would think this would be like further down the line, but it's season two and they're just already getting into it. And again, like I said, it's like this stuff has been big, like for the MCU and stuff in the recent years. So it makes sense. I just wasn't really expecting that. Um, Sterling K. Brown, like I said, he was Kipo's father in Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. He's also a pretty great singer. He had a song or two in that series. I've heard some other stuff from him randomly here and there. So I think he's gonna do really well here. He's a great voice actor. I think he's gonna do a great job. I'm definitely curious to see exactly where his character goes at this point. Um, so it's interesting seeing that the Immortal has finished reviving, I guess, and is now leading the Guardians on Cecil's order. Robot's been taken out of the lead, or Rudy, I guess now, due to just not being used to being a human. Which sounds fucking weird to say, but you know. Because he is technically human. He's always been technically human. It's just he hasn't operated out of a human body for so long, and it's a wild thing. But he's been like just dropping the ball a bit lately due to having to get used to that. And so the Immortals put in charge. We also have Bulletproof, who's come in, and he just comes in and outsasses Rex, which is very, very good to see. Love seeing that. It's gonna be interesting to see how dynamics change with all of this, and where all of that goes. I'm very curious to see like how they work with all of these stories throughout this. I wonder if they're going to do much more with Olga, too, because, like, obviously she was here to help with Debbie and to help her through things, but what was that card or whatever that she gave her? Like, Debbie tried to give it back, but it looked like Olga was going to leave it there. What was that? I feel like that's going to be very important, at least to that side of the story. Also, Cecil's assistant guy, I can't think of his name right now. How is he alive? He was in that house across the street that blew up. He blew it up to try and stop Omni-Man, right? How is he alive? And seemingly fine. Like, what? Am I forgetting something? Am I missing something? Did he survive after all and I just don't remember that? Am I the only one confused on that? Obviously, if that's a spoiler, do not tell me how he survived. But yeah, that threw me off a good amount. So this is setting up to be an interesting season for sure. I guess we'll see how it goes. But in terms of just like as a reaction series, I'm not sure so far. Because like I had said before, I'm not sure how this will work with reactions because I didn't react to the first season and everything. I'm not sure. Because you have to take into account it's like 45-minute episodes or so. And right now it's just we'll see how it goes. We'll see. I also don't know how many episodes the season is offhand. I actually have no idea. But we'll go from here, see what happens, and just take it as it goes. So, yeah. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Invincible Season 2. And tell me what you thought about how they kept teasing us with the title card and everything. And waited until the very end to showcase it. Which they've done before, but they haven't, like, teased us like this with it. With everybody, like, almost... well, actually, with a lot of people saying Invincible's name. But them teasing us, thinking it's going to go to the title card. Like, so many times this episode. Tell me what you thought of that. But thank you so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.